in our everyday life. Because I'm out here living single and I'm doing what I want to do, I eat what I want to eat.
It's basically, so first of all, being arrogant is not the question. So if you're arrogant, it's not, arrogance is basically self. Let's just say that. But it's just having the heart to put others first. Like, if you're a person and it's not all about you, and you would rather see somebody else strive and somebody else get to the next level, that's basically selflessness. So.
Can I answer this too?
Yeah, please.
I think even in the context of spiritual maturity, selflessness is not even just about the person. I think it's even about the spirit. Because even if it's a relationship, I'm not even thinking about the self of who he is. Because say, he's toxic right now, he needs, healing. I see by the spirit that he's bigger than that he's better than that. So I think selflessness is also being able to see somebody by the spirit and not just by what they're doing now. So sometimes selflessness, because I know for me, since we're kind of, single, talking in, relationships, when I ended the last relationship that I was in, I ended that because of what I saw through the spirit. Like, who he was a great guy, even though he wasn't acting out of that, but the relationship ended because I saw by the spirit he wasn't where he needed to be. So sometimes, because we can over-care for people when it is a time that we should be selfish, you know what I'm saying, for God to deal with us. And so for me, I think of selflessness as I'm not just thinking about you, but what is the spirit saying between these two selves?
That takes a lot of spiritual growth to be able to have that. Because you can see all of the pieces that say, oh, this is a good relationship and this would make sense. But for you to dig deeper into yourself spiritually to say, okay, maybe this is not what God is calling for me to do, even though the house and the car and dinner, and he's fine, that all that lines up, and that takes a lot to say, maybe this isn't it, and to really call it quits. Or to say, you're not operating the way I want you to, or you don't have the things I want you to have, but God says that your spirit is right for me. So I'm going to stick this thing, long-suffering, this thing out with you. So I think that takes a lot of spiritual growth to be able to say that. Amen. Awesome. Oh, anybody else on that topic? What love means to them? Now these fellas is quiet, except for Sydney. So I'm going to try to work on their courage. Work on that. Okay, so what would be the requirements? I'm just saying, no. Yes, please.
I'm going to go back real quick because I know that I said patience, and I'm going to be transparent because God kind of like popped me in the mouth about a few times. Because there are times when in a marriage, of course, women, and we have to be so careful, we want to just bring everything to our spouse's attention. I got to say it. I got to say it now. There have been so many times where I was like, I'm talking to him about this today. Today is the day, right? And God was like, you're not being patient with him. You're not being patient with him. And I was like, I've been patient. This is me talking to God, because I talk to God like he right here. I said, no, I've been patient. I have been patient. He said, no, you tolerate it. Yeah. There's a difference between patience is endless. It does not stop. Yeah. So the moment you can say, I've been patient. For 5 years, 15 years, I've been patient enough. There is no enough patience. So yeah.
I like that. I want us to make sure we take this all information, because we're applying this to our singles lives today. Not I'm in a relationship, we're booed, or even if you are, you're only as good in a relationship as a couple as you are as a single person. So all of these things we're learning for ourselves today. So I'm going to apply that.
Yeah, I'll add to that, and I think there's two things with love, and that is, one is intent, the other is extent. You can have the intent to love somebody, and oftentimes that's superficial. She's fine, he looks like this, that, the other, or you base it upon how you think you see that person in the future, being with them long term. But extent now, it's after the shiny new toy and all that feeling wears off. It's now more so the whole aspect beyond carrots, it's character. And the character with developing yourself And even in the whole aspect of singleness, I think that it has to be a place of wholeness. You know, because a lot of times we're looking for somebody to complete us when only God does that.
Amen.
And so the aspect of loving yourself, the aspect of knowing your word, developing who you are, your character, because now, based upon how you are in your singleness, will either lead to a marital bless or a marital mess. And so, it's going to either lead to that. So, and in that aspect now, sometimes we can't even deal with ourselves, much less somebody else.
Right.
And so you don't even have the extent to love somebody else because you don't even have the place, the intent, or and even that aspect to even deal with being alone.
Yeah, that's a good one. A lot of people don't like being alone.
Can I add to
I think that's important.
Yeah.
So, I gotta say this, I was laying down last night, and the Holy Spirit said, most times when people are not whole, is because they have given pieces to other people.
That's right.
Spiritual pieces to other people. When being single you're supposed to find out who you are.
That's right.
But you can't find out who you are if you keep giving pieces to people, if you keep sleeping with other people, if you are around the wrong environments. So that's it.
And that can be tricky because, like, we're grown, like, older than 20, and so, like, dating is a thing that we do, right? And hanging out and spending time with people is something that tends to be normal. So it's like, I'm just saying, like, we go to dinner, we get a coffee, meet up,
Not sure these days.
Netflix, chilling, amen, no, but, like, that's a thing that is happening, so that can be tricky when you're saying, be conscious of who you're giving yourself away with, but you also want to exercise and kind of practice dating a little bit to kind of know what you like, know what you don't like.
The Spirit
So
will build up.
that's, I think, the key, the driving home. It's more of a spiritual thing.
If you're not connected spiritually, if you're not prayed up, if you don't study, your spirit won't know. But if you continue to study and pray and seek God, once you walk, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's how it is. But you have to be spirit-led in your singleness.
That's right. Come on.
So I think that would be a key of, like, loving yourself. So, like, the self-care, self-love push that's being put out culturally. For us, that would be what we need to do. Spending that time in the presence of God, spending that time in our word, so that reflection is being shown back to us. So that when we do go out on these pop-up dates, you can clearly be able to say, yep, she's not it. She's pretty. She can talk. She can sing, but she's not. You can clearly define that and not kind of do 6 months later like, That's a good one. So what are some requirements of love? I know typically like 600 scores. Go ahead, Pastor Tyler, you want to say something?
Cool, oh yeah. 1 Corinthians 13 comes to mind. That's like the consummate love chapter. And love is patient, love is kind, love is a puff itself up. Love keeps no record of wrong, and so many different facets. And I think that kind of gives us a solid basis for what love is, what love should be. Like, love is the onion, and there's so many different layers to how that is expressed.
Yeah.
And so that gives us our foundation there.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think one thing, as pastors have even alluded to with that whole aspect, 1 Corinthians 13, which is powerful, I think if you can't substitute that person's name in there for love, you with the wrong one.
That's
If it doesn't read, Pookie is patient, Ray is kind, you might want to rethink who you with.
Yeah. But ourselves. Like, I really want to drive home for Conquerors Church, or just for anyone who's listening and watching. Your relationship in love comes from you first. It's an inward out. And then you're able to draw and attract that to you. If someone realizes that they're a little off when they're around you because you exemplify these things, they'll remove themselves. You don't have to do the whole breakup issue, and it's me, not you. You don't have to do that. So I really want us to, I got that last week, it was hilarious. It's me, not you. I was like, okay. But like, you'll learn, you'll be able to exemplify that. And so I want to challenge ourselves to, am I patient? Am I kind? Am I not keeping a record of wrong with our family members, with our co-workers? Like, are we doing this as an individual? Even before we get into the relationship, even before we start doing those pop-up dates. So that's very important thing.
I think it is also important to know your love language and also study other love languages.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Because I got mine down pat.
Okay.
Okay? Listen, babe. This is what it is. But it is very important to not just be solely based on your love language. And
Oh, no, you good, you good.
I got 2 mics.
No, I got you.
Testing one. Alright, sorry. Yeah, but to study the other love languages, because even if you don't take the love language test, I feel like for most people, you'll still be like, oh, well, you like gifts or you like affirmation. And I think that before I loved gifts, I still love gifts, but now I love words of affirmation. I think that I don't know if a love language is something that is just supposed to stay with you all of your years of your life. I'm not sure, but mine it started to shift. Like I like words of affirmation. I like words of affirmation. Gifts too now.
You said no, don't
Your gift make room.
Your gift will make room, Pastor said. But listen now. That was fast, y'all. That was fast. But words of affirmation for sure.
That's a good one.
But know I'm sorry, babe.
No, go ahead.
Just know your love language and study the other love languages as well.
I would agree, and if you're not familiar with the love languages, there are about 5 that are identified in a book. Gary Chapman. The love language, it's on Google's, on YouTube, it's everywhere, but it's a great thing just to learn of other personalities and how and you'll be able to identify, like, I have a best friend that's like that, I used to be like that. I would agree about growing. I think there's some staples in us that we just like. You know, we're just innate from childhood, I just need these things. But I think as you grow as an individual, your mindset adjusts and you realize what used to be frivolous and like that really isn't a necessity anymore. So I think love languages grow with you. I would agree, and that's important to take the time. Because I may not be the person that is a word of affirmation, but because you are and I'm aware of it, because I love you, I'm going to take the time to affirm you. And that's like a quick text like, yo, you're amazing, you're great, because I know that speaks to your heart. And if that's the only way you receive love, but I'm loving you, I need to make sure I'm doing that. So I'll hit that text real quick and and that was it, and leave it at that, and you receive it and live life, and that's good. No, I'm a quality time person, so I need undivided, individual, no phone, me and you, life talk. I need a quality time.
I want to add something to that too about love, because honestly, being single, I think the greatest relationship that you can have is that relationship with yourself and with God to really help you as you prepare for marriage. And the thing that I'm finding about love that a lot of us don't like to see is the correction side of it and the correction side of God, because the Bible clearly says that He corrects those whom He loves. And a lot of times when we hear correction, we automatically, you know what I mean? Like think opposite, but correction is nothing but a realignment. I love and prefer to be in relationship with people who are going to continue to align me. And so I think that that's a huge part of love, because it's not always saying her patience with her husband. There's a thing, like he said, when you remain in the spirit, I can see the correction that's in that. You know what I mean? And the conversation of, well, think about this, see, that's correction. It doesn't mean that it's coming in a, nasty, negative way. So for me, I think that's a huge part of it, mainly because that's work. He makes sure I stay the line, and it gives me bliss. I'm like, thank you, because he's making sure I'm not getting out here in this world and embarrassing myself. And you should have that thing in a private relationship, in a marriage. If we can't deal with this and keep each other fully exposed and covered at the same time, that's a huge part of love for me when it comes to a relationship.
That's good.
I agree. I like how when you said about as you grow, sometimes love languages change, and how you said correction needs to be open and on the table. I believe that in relationship, whatever level that is, businessship, friendships, intimate, booze, whatever, we should be able to put everything on the table and have like a knock it out conversation, and no one's feelings be hurt. Like I'm coming to you because I love you, and I need to say this. Some people are surface. And you need to be able to check that and notice that right away. And then see, are you a service person? Can you handle that correction when it's coming? And if you need a couple days to kind of settle on it and like think about it, sometimes you're like, who are you talking to? But women, we have a little attitude, but being able to receive, I think it definitely should be on the table. And by having that openness, Pastor Cliff will call it intimacy, by having that on the table, you're able to then say, hey, I know when we first met, these were my needs and these were my love languages, but I've grown. And this is how I've adjusted, and this is why I've adjusted. I can quantify that in any relationship, whether it's my businessship, my friendships, or, like we said, intimacy. Anybody else lastly on that?
I just want to say this, as a man, I'm going to say this because I'm married, so I have experience. It's hard sometimes to take correction from my wife. As a man, because as a man, it's like automatically it's like we in charge. And it's our ego. But in a marriage, you're gonna have to sit your ego aside.
Now, Phoenicia, how do you handle that? Because if you're called to give the correction, you acknowledge it, you see it, and you know it needs to be said. As a woman, this is something we have to work on in our singleness, because if we have to approach it at a different angle, but the correction still has to be given nonetheless. So how do you handle that?
So first, wives need to recognize that you're not your husband's mother, right? It's so ugly. It's so ugly. And a lot of times, babe, were we at service when it said if you're coming? Oh, because when Nathan came to King David, he didn't want to come. So when it comes time to have these hard conversations with my husband, or things that I feel like went wrong, or maybe he even feels like it went wrong, but he's not willing to confront it or address it at that moment, but I know that it's imperative that it be addressed. Man, I go before God, because I'm like, look, God, first of all, I don't want to talk about this. We could just wait a week and like let it,
Just settle on down.
It's easier to just let it go away, right? But then I think about, I foresee if we don't rectify this, and if we don't talk about this, if we don't address it, the buildup. And we can't afford that. I don't want to waste my time trying to shave off layers of an issue that we could have just faced head on. And so I'm like, okay, guys, so how should I talk to your son? Because he's your son. He's your son.
That's a good perspective.
You know what I'm saying? No, but seriously, when I say that and I'm talking to God, that reminds me that I can't just come check him like, so let me talk to you right quick. Because I'm like, oh, he's looking at her and I'm so confused. You know what I'm saying? Because I can be like that. But it's not Christ-like, and I know that God is not pleased with that. Right. So I'm like, how do I come to him, and how do I make it easy for him to talk to me? Because I am not just trying to come to him and boss him around. Right. It's not my marriage. This is us. He's my friend. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hurt his feelings. Right. He's so silly. You're my best friend. But I never want him to feel, I don't want him to feel embarrassed or humiliated, and it is my job to not just protect him publicly, but in our house. He shouldn't just feel like Superman out in public. He should feel that way at home first.
That's a lot of growth. I can't speak for everybody, but for me as an individual, coming from a single parent home, my mother's a very strong, vivacious individual, so my learning as a woman has been, you run things. And learning to support that at home before I have a home with a husband is a growing thing, to say, okay, I need to maybe approach you differently. I maybe need to say it to you this way. It still, again, has to be said, but at what time and what voice and what tone. And this is even, and I'm, again, driving home the point, this is us as individuals, because I have to do this with my 18-year-old brothers. Not just running and yelling at them and saying, okay, hey, so let's talk about the decision you made earlier today to leave school early.
Exactly. I gotta
still be able to support that growing young man, even though he's 18 and making dumb decisions. These are things that, you still have to acknowledge that, and we have to work on that as women, I think. That's definitely worth to be discussed.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Did anyone have a comment? Or you just identify?
But it's kind of personal. I don't know if you want to answer.
Okay.
But it's addressed to you guys.
Sure.
I want to know how long did you date
So silly.
So watch this. Technically, we've only been together for a year.
Wow.
We got married.
Everybody's face.
We got married January 4th of this year.
Yep, this year.
What was your question again?
How long?
How long did you date before you got married?
Yeah, the honeymoon.
Right.
Yeah, so we were engaged 5 months. No, we were dating before I proposed. I'm sorry, 5 months. But it wasn't, we were still like, okay, I don't know if I like him. I don't know if I like her. We were just really testing the waters.
We were friends first.
But we were friends for 2 years.
And I promised to never date him.
In total and whole different relationships. So we were not looking for each other. I wasn't trying to get married till I was 40.
He said that.
I'm 23. I wasn't trying to get married till I was 40 because it was just like marriage.
Why is that? He's really 23.
I'm really 23.
No, we believe it.
No, it's already.
Yeah, the 40
Yeah, that 40 thing took me out.
40
Right.
He was
trying to be a bachelor.
serious too, and I was like, just
I was trying to be a bachelor because it was
Right.
like everything that I saw in marriage was wrong.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Oh, so I told God, I said, if she's the one. Yeah, because I was, I had to tell him. I was like, I told God, I said, if she's the one, I would literally stop everything that I wanted to do and I would pursue her. And I chased her. It wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy. I couldn't even come to her job.
For what?
For like
And I
2
didn't want to talk
months.
on the phone at
And
first.
she didn't want to talk on the phone.
Wow.
And then, I don't know what the Lord did for me, but
The Lord can
He let
work it out.
me, He allowed her to see that my desire for her was real.
That's awesome.
So that's what,
So I asked that question because I always talk to my kids. My kids are 33, 30, in and out of relationships. I said, you want to at least get to know a man 6 to a year. I said, because when you have a male and a female, both of you guys are trying to impress the other one. You're not being yourself.
Right.
And that person really ain't coming out to at least 6 months, the real deal, because he's trying to impress you, and you trying to impress him. You know, fixing dinner and cooking. You don't even do that. Right. But within those 6 year months, you're gonna stop cooking, and you're gonna say, he gonna see you really don't cook.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And it's a done deal. So to really, for both of y'all to really get to know each other, at least to me, 6 months to a year. Then little pieces that come out where you found out you don't wash, you don't open your car door.
Right. That's why I think this conversation is important, because we want to be authentic with ourselves first. And when you can do that, you don't have to front for anybody. I've learned to wear no makeup and be like, hey, with me.
Right.
And you meet me, this is as good as it gets. A lot of things have happened to where when you can be authentic with yourself and be happy with that from the inside out, you can meet a person and you can say from day one, this is what's up. And if you can match that, you can roll with that, okay, we can continue this conversation. But when you're still unsure about yourself, you will be a puppet at a date trying to impress and please a person. And that doesn't last anyway, because if that person only wants you to do cartwheels, that will get old and they're gonna need a new trick after a while. So like that never works. So that's why I'm encouraging these open, fluid conversations of getting to know yourself. And in doing that, it's you seeking after God, and God shows you his reflection. And then you can say, okay, this is who I am. So I would encourage you to challenge your children to spend time in getting to know themselves and what God has called them to. Because then you can say, when they go out on a date, it might even take them 6 months to know the person. They'll know spiritually, day one, yeah, this isn't it.
Realize that it's okay to be by yourself. It's okay.
Oh, it's a huge thing to be okay to be by yourself. Like date night 101. I will go to J. Alexander's for myself and have a whole table. And they're like, just wine? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Can you bring extra bread? Thanks. With the honey. I like my a long time. And I think it makes me a better person when I'm with people, because then I'm not flustered about what I didn't do for myself. I can freely give you this undivided attention. I can give it to you because I did all of what Sadie's wanted to do before I got here. So I think it's important to be alone.
Can I add that we were friends for 2 years before we ever dated though. And what was dope about that is because when you're sincerely someone's friend, you loose with it. I mean, what up? Like this is my homie, okay? So we were 100% like this. I would like try to help him find girls. She cute. You should date her. She's very single. Are you sure? Like you want to talk to her first? Like that. And we were very sincerely friends. And as friends, you truly get to know each other. You truly have conversation that's transparent, and you're not trying to be careful of what you say and tiptoe, and you know what I mean, walk on eggshells, hoping that you satisfy or impress the person that you're intending to date.
Indeed.
And I think that's the key part. Is like you're worried about impressing this other person or satisfying them, but if you stay within your spiritual alignment, you're seeking and asking God, what can I say to this person? What should I do for this person? How can I help? He'll show you their needs. He'll show you their heart. I know for me, there's an individual I was interested in, and I prayed and I asked God, I said, Lord, can you show me their heart? So I can understand why they're saying what they're saying, so I can understand how to be patient for this individual, so I can, when I engage with them, so I can speak with them correctly, and so I can touch their heart. I prayed for that, and then the Lord began revealing things to me that was never physically shared to me by that person, so I knew it was God. So I began to pray for those areas, like in this area, the Lord began to open these doors, begin to work on this part of their heart. But that's only something you learn in prayer. You don't walk up to somebody and say, hey, what's all your issues from 6 years old on? No, you don't do that. Okay, cool. Lastly, expectations and failures that have happened in love, in pursuing love or in being in love.
Say it one more time.
Expectations and failures of pursuing love or being in love. Like culture gives us a lot of things that we should shoot for in a relationship, in whatever level that relationship is. And that creates expectations for us.
Yeah, I would say do the opposite of any Hallmark movie.
No, Hallmark and lifetime, they always talk love. And then they like, he
Breaking
loves
hearts
her.
in here tonight.
She loves him back. They build a house together. Like, it's cute. Like the Notebook.
Yeah, we die together on the bed. No, I'm teasing. No, I mean, I think in large part, I mean, what TV and movies do, they take the best of, the highlights of love and romance and put that on the screen, So you get conflict and resolution for 2 hours and a marriage. And this is not real life, And so I think, we have to change our expectations from what we see before us. I know maybe when I was younger, I was really influenced by a book called I've Kissed Dating Goodbye. And since then, the author of the book has pretty much retracted what he wrote in the book. Now, he wrote a lot of good stuff, and unfortunately, he went too far left. Like, he's not even a Christian anymore. But he wrote the book in his 20s, and it was big on don't date, dating's evil, like live pure and holy before God. It was the whole purity movement thing. And purity is good, like that's where it's at. Like you win it, But what it did was it began to cripple people in the area of relationships and made them think that somehow this is just a purely supernatural phenomenon. Like, we would say stuff like, the next person I date is my wife, or the next person I date is my husband. And that sounds good, but then it demonizes dating. Like you can't take a moment to get to know somebody and say, you know what, it don't work. Not everybody's gonna have the dream that this is my spouse. Some of it's gonna come from time, consistency, and just seeing people in different spaces. And so I think that we should not neglect the natural side of getting to know people, and that may help with our expectations of love and dating. So.
I would say that it's important to regulate your expectations. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times, if you took a Polaroid in the room and, you ask everybody who believes that anyone in the world is perfect, probably unanimously, we would all agree that nobody is perfect.
I think Eddie Connor's perfect.
Mark the perfect man.
Mark the perfect. So, yeah, exactly.
Even her outfit matches him up.
Perfection.
I love it. Just send it.
Yeah. But we would all generally agree that nobody's perfect. But when we get into relationships, the question is, how much grace do we give people to be imperfect?
Yeah.
And how much do we allow the variable of their imperfectness to surprise us and we actually still stay?
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing, is that we all agree nobody's perfect. You'll even go as far as to say that you are not perfect.
Huh?
But when you get into a relationship and now this person has an anger problem. Oh, I can't deal with that.
Right. Exactly.
Or maybe a substance use problem. Oh, absolutely not. Or maybe they have, maybe he's trying to have sex with you pre-marriage, or she's trying to have sex. Oh no, see, no, you don't honor my body, so I can't. We oftentimes when that person begins to show us that they are human and they are not perfect, when you actually look behind the Wizard of Oz facade, and you get behind the curtain and you actually see the nutrients of their imperfection, then what are your expectations as it relates to that? And are they realistic?
Thank you.
Are they realistic expectations? I'm not saying that you throw all your standards out the window, but what I am saying is ask yourself what's reasonable, because sometimes you can be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Just because the sister is not skilled in the scriptures like you. What does that mean?
She don't know nothing.
She don't know nothing.
She don't know nothing.
Just nothing at that
She's,
point.
she's not had a command of the text like you do. Okay, well, you're a preacher and she's an accountant.
She just,
What does that
she
mean?
handled the books though.
She can handle the books, or she can bless you.
You don't know the difference between your and your.
Still
Throw the whole ticket away.
Too many typos in the
Too many
text.
typos. I can't do that with you.
that autocorrect is not my fault. That's not my autocorrect is not my fault.
But you need to prove it. So no, the question, but spit in all seriousness, many times it's the little things like this.
Yes.
That really get under our skin, or that, when we actually start, when our expectations are met with people's imperfections, and we don't even see our own, we're not considering our own in the equation, then how do you expect to entertain at any point in time a sustainable relationship? I think you're hustling backwards that way.
But Pastor, would you say that is a level of insecurity within ourselves that we're pushing off on another person?
That can be.